Hello, everybody. We're back again with another session of live stream with the ASIFA-South community. And today we have a really special guest for you, especially for those who might be interested in the world of VR and AR, like virtual reality. And I know that a lot of people might have been really interested in it or have started dabbling in it. But today we also have a really special guest, Parnaz, who is also a specialist and VR designer at General Electric, and we're going to actually have her talk a little bit about herself and her journeys and things like that as well too. Before we get into the world of VR and as an animator, why it's important and how you can actually get into it as well.
So, hey everyone, hey Ginger. So, thank you for having me tonight. It was just really a pleasure to be here. And yeah, as you explained, I know myself as an animator and then a designer, strategist. So, currently I'm working for G Transportation and yeah, the world of VR, or I normally use XR, which is like extended, it's like an umbrella term for all these immersive realities. So it's extended realities, XR, which includes AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, and any type of mixed realities. So yeah, do you want to like me talk about like my background or
Yes,
like
a little bit. Let us know, like what's your background like? Where did you come from, and how did you get into like VR? Like, did you study in this field, or did you just happen upon it?
the second option? But I can explain. I have a very strange, maybe not very strange, but quite a strange background because well, I have
Hello,
a diploma in
everybody. We're
mathematics
back
and
again with.
physics.
Did you study in this field,
So
or did you just happen upon it?
that's the thing. But after that, I was like studying multimedia back in my country, Iran. And which multimedia that I studied was like half programming and like half game design and art essentials. Like it was like a conclusion of all that. And maybe what I learned from that diploma was a little bit of the logic and how to like combine all that together. And like I was into like arts and music and like drawing cartoons, and that was maybe the mixture of all of that together led me to the road of VR, and that feeling of having like being immersed into like other people, because as an animator you're a storyteller, and then when you're saying stories you want people to believe it, so you're asking them for their empathy. And then when I was exposed to VR, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my god, it's like this is like the level of immersion that you can put anyone into it and they would believe it as their own reality,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
actual physical reality. So
So
yeah, that was my fascination with that concept, like making people empathize with you.
yeah. So how did you get into General Electric? Is that like your first job in VR?
Yeah, so after I was done with my bachelor's, I applied for SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, and I studied animation in SCAD Atlanta. And yeah, so many people in ASIFA-South, they're familiar with SCAD. But yeah, but anyways, it was a brilliant experience for me because you've been working with all these talented artists and the faculty. I loved working with them. And then the first actual film that we had was Bluebird. That it was a very pleasing experience producing that and like working on all aspects of a short animated narrative using this medium VR,
Yeah. So
and
I'm gonna,
everything. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm gonna
everything was
quick.
new.
Sorry,
What is
sorry.
that?
I'm sorry. I keep interrupting. No, I said that like we can show the people a little bit of Bluebird. I
Yes,
pulled it up
yes.
as well. You mind? Okay, so right now I'm gonna do a quick video play, and then get back to you. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. No, that was the best time.
Okay, so here it is. So I think in this experience, right now we're looking at your animation. So it's like the 4K Maya stereo one
The first one should be a conventional,
trailer, right?
yes.
So the first
The
conventional trailer.
yeah.
So is this animated in VR or like did you do it outside like in Toon Boom Motion After Effects and then put it in or?
The interesting fact about that was that it was a hybrid 2D 3D. So we were a
Involved in
team
the
of
QAs where we've gotten opinion
brilliant,
responses.
other than me, 8 people that we've been working with, and it was traditionally being animated, which means using Toon Boom for 2D animation and doing composition and After Effects. At that time, using Skybox, which was a plugin for After Effects, but then they merged. And yeah, it was mostly done traditionally, and then with Houdini effects, and then yeah, it wasn't being done in VR. That's why we needed to come up with like creative solutions and ideas to how to, when you want to do an animation, you have an animatic and then you have a storyboard, and then now you don't have any idea that what is going on, what to do with all this 360 environment around you.
Was it very
And
different, like designing? Because like you mentioned, right? In animation, you just have to focus on the thing that's in front of you and design for that. But when it comes to the 360, what is like the difficulty, and how did you approach that?
that's like the fun part of working on that. It was like the design part of that, which was we came up with this idea of, hey, we have this image sphere, which is a 360 map of like the whole circle, that is like the whole events are happening in that circle, and then we time coded all the events that was happening, that was gonna happen in our scenario, in our script. So we knew that each character was gonna be at what point and time every second of the whole animation.
Yeah.
And then we started to like having the bird, which is animated 2D, in 2D, and then we had that as a sphere and as a 3D object, and animated 3D in 3D background, in 3D environment, and then rendering it out. And based on that, we could animate in 2D and then match them together, and then composite it together so it looks like as a whole.
Oh, nice. That's like super interesting right there too, because I think one of the things that people don't realize is like, especially if you're using the skybox that's now in AE, that like you like you when you put in an image, if it's flat, it doesn't look like how it should look like in the 3D world, right?
Yes.
And so you have to actually figure out like putting it into like an animation so that you can test it out in a spherical world kind of thing too.
Yeah, we even animated like in that way, and then we wrapped it around the sphere, and then we had some type of animatic that we could check how the things are happening.
Nice. And so I think the other like, because I know this one also went to SIGGRAPH too, which is a really great experience. Like, because you're telling a story where you're not actually leading the people to look at the stuff. How do you make it so that people look where you want them to look, or do you just make the elements everywhere so that wherever people look, they can see something?
Well, this is the point that you're mentioning is one of the challenges of that's something there's an active conversation around this topic, and it's been for years that they have, since we are working on like VR. It's been the question that, okay, now that we have everything, we're not directing we don't have any targets, we don't have that frame. How should we direct the people eyes into what or where we are telling the story? So how we did that in Bluebird was using the Bluebird itself. So if you follow the bluebird, this is where we have most of the narration happening on the shadows on the wall. And then sometimes it vanishes. That means, hey, pay full attention to the story that you're seeing. It's like a screen. But sometimes I had the opportunity to work for another at SCAD, another project, which was one of the CLCs over there, which was the collaborative courses for Adult Swim, which was based on Rick and Morty.
Wow,
And
what
the
is it
name
called?
was Killed Characters. So it's about all the characters that they got killed by Rick. So we put them, and it was a network ID that, again, I was a part of the team, and this team, they've been brilliant animators and illustrators, and out of that collaboration, we had a network ID, and based on that network ID, we had uh, a VR short.
Okay. Is it on YouTube anywhere?
It's on Vimeo,
Oh,
I
Vimeo.
believe.
Okay. Yeah, if you
Yeah,
could find that for us, that would be cool too, and then we can share that as well too. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, but I think the other part of this is like now you're working into things that are not just still animation anymore too. So I'm like pulling up some of your projects. So let me share the screen with you so you can actually see this part as well too. Okay, share. Can you see my screen, Parnaz?
It's being loaded.
Okay.
All right, give me a second. Yes, now I'm seeing it.
So now we're seeing like some of the work that you do for GE as well too. And there's like things like this. Like this is the XR Lab, the innovation lab at General Electrics. So what is this about? Like, because I know some people are even wondering like, what type of jobs do you have with VR?
Yeah, if you want to go back to projects, let's start with a major future of freight on the right. This was a major vision roadmap that we had, which we designed. I'm going to explain about what we designed around it. So again, going back to my fascination with empathy and the core concept of empathy and using that, now it's being broadly using in design work as well. Because like previously, by previously I don't mean like last year, but I mean like 10 years ago, when developers were gonna develop a website or an app or something like that, all the digital products, they wasn't really thinking about, they've been considering us, the users, as like solid blocks.
Mhm.
But now they're using the term design thinking, and now it has a core concept of using empathizing with your user
I see.
and having their include all their emotions and
Mhm.
their humanness of them,
Mhm.
which that was something that was the linking, that was the point that was linking all these different topics that I was working on. So again, this is another type of a storytelling. If you scroll down, this was a very interesting project that I had a chance to work on, and this was a partnership between Innovation Lab at G Transportation and TIG in Seattle, and we managed to came up with a ground uh, roadmap and a vision roadmap.
Yeah. So this is the
So
vision roadmap.
yes, and if you scroll down a little bit, I have the
Is it this? Oh, nice. So the why, the how, and the what.
exactly. So we have the trends that are happening around us, and we can see. And I'm gonna talk about that, the storytelling part of that as well after that. But then now we have like the technologies that are accessible right now, and what are the areas that we can contribute using those technologies and using that trend, the available trends. And again, back to empathizing and empathy, uh, what I want to talk about in that regard is that we are technically doing this by observing around and then coming up with ideas, envisioning the future. And I'm going to foresight type of strategic foresight topics. And then by predicting this future, we are having some action items right now that we can do. We can start to prototype. So if you scroll down,
Oh, wow.
this is something that it's telling a story using animation, and it's envisioning something that we want to happen in future.
Nice.
A prediction.
Should I play this?
Yes, yes.
Let's do that.
In 2038, the freight industry moves an order of magnitude more goods to keep up with the demands of the global economy. To meet this need, freight radically transformed into a collaborative, predictive, and adaptive ecosystem, all in order to max out existing capacity and serve new types of customers. How did we get here? The threat of retail giants becoming logistics companies ignited a change across carriers in the freight industry. They collaborated on new business models enabled by shared data and networks, redefining the meaning of competition. They did this by aggregating and connecting data that allowed them to predict problems and surges in business before they ever became issues.
Just 1 minute, so it's almost done.
Routes and plans became adaptive, dynamically replanning based on simulations and historic trends, with freight moving seamlessly across multiple carriers and modes as needed. This is all supported by innovative new vehicles and infrastructure that help increase efficiency for everyone, with end customers supported by the entire network for more flexible, cost-effective, and reliable shipments, as well as new service experiences. This future is coming. How did you invent it?
Okay, that's good. So was that a video of like what we're trying to get it, as in like the what is coming, the trends?
Yes, exactly. That was like the result of the visual. This is like the importance of visual communications, that you can easily talk to anyone, if it's a non-technical normal user or it's the C-level of a big corporation. This is like the easiest way to to communicate your ideas, your visions with them. And then based on that, now you can go to that XR lab.
Okay, XR lab. So let's see how this is done.
Oh,
sure. So now we kind of like went through a little bit of briefing of what that project was, that particular project. So let's look at this XR lab.
Yeah, so you saw that roadmap, right? It was a horizontal roadmap, and then based on that roadmap, you could put any vertical line in the middle, and it gives you a scenario, a future scenario that can happen per se in 2032, 2030. And then you could start to prototyping. And then going back to the pleasure of working with your friends and how more enjoyable it is, we came back to SCAD, and we had a partnership with SCAD, and we had a team of very talented multidisciplinary designers. By designers, I mean interior designers, game designers, and then graphic designers, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing some other siblings as well. But it was a combination of those skill set to create prototypes or proof of concepts, that we call it POC. And these are what you see on the right is the Magic Leap AR goggles or AR glasses.
Shout out to Magic Leap.
Yeah, it's one of the I wanted to say one of the best, which we don't have like more than two, which is terrible now. But anyways, Yeah, so based on that, we created a network operation map, which it's a map of tracks, and you could see if those notifications that you see, it's like giving you alerts about maybe weather situations. There is a
Mm.
hurricane coming up, and then a
Mm.
second map opens up.
Yeah.
Because we've been envisioning that in future, we don't need like after maybe we have semi-automated system.
Mm.
We don't need like dispatchers on field. Maybe we can use drones.
Mm.
And then we've been trying to envision that, okay, now that we have the whole new way of interactions and new workforce, what type of UI would work with
Mm.
them? And we started to sort of reimagining that UI using these immersive AR glasses.
Nice. So UI is a user interface
Yes.
in terms of the things. So, like for example, like this, right? Like how to
Yeah.
like now you can actually problem solve your issue by actually like dragging and dropping things, trying to say, oh, what breaks. So this is like the breaks and stuff like that too. I like this particular thing at the start. Man, it looks like a little Jedi wand.
Yeah.
But then you can grab the train and you can like probably move it around and see how the scenario changes. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's perfectly correct.
That's great.
What you saw in the beginning, it was a hump yard, and then it was solving a particular issue that showcasing that, hey, this is like a solution that you can solve it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more towards the interactive side already, like games.
Yeah,
Definitely.
right,
Yeah.
and this one was another VR, which is more narrative. This map that you see over here, that was the first network map that you saw on that AR
Yes.
experience.
Yeah.
So this is a showcase that, hey, if the scenario is that, now this future worker needs to have a future workspace. So we had these interior designers to create a future headquarter, which can be either physical or it can be even virtual. So if we are like communicating using our goggles, what is the need for us to be on field?
Yeah. So talking about XR right now, like right now this is VR because you're inside of the world, but also just explaining for some people who don't know, like with Magic Leap, right now this one is like you're outside and you're like kind of like imposing a reality on something else too. So that's like augmented reality. So it's similar to how when you play Pokemon, you take out your phone, you're interacting with the environment type of thing as well too. So Magic Leap kind of like gives you more of that experience than the VR where you're a little bit more immersive. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. When you have your physical space and you're technically augmenting these new virtual objects or visuals on top of that physical environment.
So why would you have it in the difference between, what you're doing this in AR and this is in VR? Is there a reason for that?
For this particular experience, because this was only a narration that we wanted to have full immersion for our user, because we wanted to, this was a part of that vision that, if you remember, we talked about. So we wanted to have our customers and, our people above to, hey, look, this is what we're talking about. And VR is the best type of medium to communicate a narrative environment, because there is actually a neuroscience fact which if you are using VR, based on the level of realism of that experience that you are immersed in, your brain will be fooled within a minute, up to 3 minutes, or that there was some I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's pretty quick that your brain accepts this new virtual environment or reality as the alternate, as the actual reality that you're in. So imagine that your hormones is being produced based on this new alternate reality.
That makes sense.
Yeah, your like brainwave is like acting normally if you're actually there.
Yeah.
So that's why we use that. And then for AR, that was the reason that, hey, this is a tool that you can use it in a field. You can use it wherever. Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually have a question, and I think this is something that I can contribute to a little bit. But William Davis was talking that he's saying that he saw some updates in Wonder Unit, and Wonder Unit is actually a storyboard program. It's a free storyboard program, and then and Blender, where they're exploring previs and storyboarding actually in VR. So right now, Parnaz, I know that you can still see my screen. So actually, I'm going to show you what he's talking about, so that we can Wonder Unit and VR. Can kind of see how it looks like actually too. And his question was like, what is your previs workflow for VR, and how long does that take versus traditional methods? Because some people are starting to storyboard straight in VR as well too, especially with that Quill and other animations. But like for example, this is like an example.
Hi everyone, this is
Charles. Take a quick look at this.
Unit. I want to show you some stuff we're working on in Storyboarder. I bought a Oculus Quest with all the stuff that we're working on in VR, and I was really curious if it would just work. So I went ahead and I bought it, and it just showed up this morning. Basically everything you see here is what's running what I'm about to show you. The Oculus Quest, which is a beautiful device, and I'm running it on the MacBook that I have. So I just put on the headset, I go into the VR, and I connect to the browser and go to the IP address of the laptop and enter VR.
Yeah, well,
and then from there it takes all the data.
Talk about that a little bit. In design, when you want to design an app, you have Sketch or Adobe XD and Envision to simulate what it looks like if you want to. It's a clickable prototype, and we didn't have that tool in VR, and now there are explorations happening around that. I personally used Quill just to showcase that how it looks like, because something that is like really bothering me is that people can't get rid of that frame even if they're designing for a 360 environment. So we have plenty of prototyping tools for VR that they are using only, you can import your 2D designs and place it in 3D environment, in a 360 environment.
Yes.
This is not the answer, because still your brain is thinking in frames, so you won't design your even the bottoms, you won't design them as if it can be a 3D object in a 3D space. So as soon as you can get rid of it, that's why I used Quill, just to showcase that, okay, I want to like design this this quick bottom over here, and then this is the prototype the prototype interaction between one action and the transition between the two.
So I'm opening.
So at least it wasn't clickable, but at least it was showcasing that, hey, this is how it happens.
So I'm just showing people quickly what Quill VR is in case they're not familiar with it. And also for those of you who are interested in animating in VR, because it is a big thing right now as well too, or storyboarding in Quill or Animate VR, there's a whole group, it's called like virtual animation, where you can actually see people doing these things with examples and tutorials. It's a very interesting way of doing it as well. So this is just a quick look of how like Quill VR, where you can sketch things, and it comes out into
you can import it as 3D objects, and then have it being shaded and like later shaded and lighted in Maya, rendered out.
Definitely. Okay. So I think that's a really cool thing as well, because like I said, I think the big hold up for a lot of animators or like people who are creative who are interested in VR is, number one is maybe people don't have as much access to the technology yet, so they might not have like a Rift or something at home. But now that you've mentioned it, they could try to use Adobe or like different other programs and softwares to try to get that like 360 as well. What do you recommend in terms of like if somebody's starting out and they're like they want to try like something in VR and prototype it as like a storyboard, like and they don't have the Oculus or the Rift yet? What is the first basic thing that they can do?
There are different ways because if you want to just like per se storyboarding or doing something like that, there are many tools that you don't need to be a developer and doing that. And those tools like Gravity Sketch, like Quill or Tilt Brush, they are very intuitive applications out there that you can simply get a Quest, Oculus Quest, and then download them and start to explore.
Yeah.
And then another way, maybe you want to go on that developing road, which I'd say if you're working with Unity website and Unity Learn is like one of the best resource to start off because it explains all the not just how to do that. So you don't want to be a technician or a user of an app, but you want to know why you're doing that or how it's happening. And and there is under the topics, if you click on more, XR. So it is explaining, it has like many different levels of tutorials and like actual courses that you can
great.
And all free resources. I mean, oh my god.
I mean, like Unity is free to use, so I definitely would recommend like so I guess like if somebody's interested in working in VR, maybe they should definitely check out like the Unity tutorial, and because I think the aspect that it brings to that is the interactivity as well. Because I mean, if we start off, you know, with like something like a basic, starting with 360 photos, like in Facebook, that's good for, you know, like establishing like a world, creating and understanding that more. But then when you go into interaction, which is a main big advantage of why people go towards VR in the first place, it's really like about learning a little bit more to help you like navigate the spaces of like Unity as well too, and gaming.
And then sorry for interruption.
No, go ahead.
And then for AR, there are some other applications too, which I heard that in Adobe Max, I guess they released Project Arrow.
Yes.
Which I was a group of people that I was beta testing that Project Arrow, and it's really cool and easy. Like literally, it says like way easier than Photoshop or other Adobe application, and you can literally download it and start to working with it.
Yes, and I think one of our interns also talked about Sparks AR as well too. I think that was also another Adobe one as well.
Yeah, so this is very easy to use too.
Yeah. So I mean, like we have like a couple of different tools.
I think Spark AR. It's not it's not Adobe.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like there's these two. Arrow, Spark, a couple different things that we can use. But let's go back to your stuff first, because I mean you have a lot of very interesting things that you're thinking about. Because right now when we're looking at your work, first one that you also had was, you know, the VR short that started off with just animating and trying to lead people to eye, and then you went on to create like solutions for like how to use VR as a tool to kind of help problem solve and go into kind of interacting with all these like different problem solving and thinking. And I think this was also another one, like a VR short animation as well. Chemical.
Yeah. This was actually, I've never finished it, but yeah, I'm still thinking about that.
This is interesting. Oh, look at your animatic.
So this was about like chemical. It was the impact of it has an anti-war message, and it's talking about like the visual is the dance that is dance and interaction that happens between a fish and this child, And then the message is talking about the chemical bombs and the chemical explosions and the impact that it has in on people for generations. And that was a test.
And then yeah, like
yeah,
article test. So in here, this storyboard is also like traditional type as well too.
This is I started as traditional, but I guess if you scroll down or scroll up, there should be a, maybe I don't have it here, but I had that sphere that I talked about. The circle, time-coded circle. So it was, everything was, all the happenings was time-coded
I think this
on that map.
I think this is the adult swim one you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick look at this one.
Sure.
Oh, so you can scroll here.
Yeah. And as you see, this one, I was playing with the saturation and light. So if you look around, there is not much going on, unless where it's being lit. You can follow it's easier to follow when you have the goggles on. So you look around, you see a part of the bar, and these are all the characters that with you.
So you're using light to guide people to where they should look.
Yeah, this was saturation and light.
But we make sure they see the sun.
That's interesting.
Goodbye.
And if you want to go back to VXR lab.
Okay, let's get back to
I want to talk about because when we talk about like a technology, this technology is technically, a culture is growing around the technology, and then it's a balance between tech and the demand of the society and the tech that is being invented, and then people catching up and having questioning the ethics of that, and the not just the ethics, but hey, what is gonna be the impact of this specific tech in future, in 10 years? What is it like about our society, our technology, our impact of that tech on our technology, on our environment, on our lives technically. And that's the context that made me pretty interested in futurism and foresight. They call it strategic foresight. And this was the connection that this is a prediction card that we created. This was the very first versions of that. And then if you scroll down, there are the newer versions of that, and a working wall that in every in every conference that we were going, we were trying to engage people, either if it's like normal people like hanging around in the meetups in Atlanta or like around the States, or if it is transportation and customers, we've been trying to engage them and ask them questions that how you would predict the future, how would your life look like in this role, and what do you think about this specific topic? And we've been collecting data, and then we could synthesize, and then we could feed that wall that you saw that we had in our office.
What?
This wall.
This is very interesting because I mean,
prediction wall.
Yeah, I mean it's not just that, oh wow, this is VR and AR really cool, like with the new technology, it really is about also ethically how you use it. Like even when we're talking about data collection and privacy, right now it's like, oh, you have all these AI things that can track things, like like in China and stuff like that, but should you? It's also a question.
Yeah, so
existential
now
crisis.
Yep. Now there are conversations that are happening that, hey, if we are, we have how many movies that you can name which is talking about future, and it's like Black Mirror. It's like dystopias, dark dystopias. So, and like the world that Blade Runner was talking about, it was happening this year. Do we have that type of environment right now with no plant? Well, that was envisioning the future, their future, which is our present, very in a very dystopian way. And then when we want to talk about the future, I there are the topics that right now are being discussed that it's not going to be dystopian or utopian. So there's something in between, which now they have a term for it called protopia. And then that was the context creation for this new technology. It now it's my hobby. So I'm saying hobby because you put more time on your hobbies because you're interested on it
Yes.
and you invest time on it. So yeah, that's why I got to know folks in speculative future meetup, which is in Atlanta. Atlanta has a chapter too, and then a conference called Primer, which our Future Afraid was showcased in Primer 19, which was in New York, in Parsons School, New School, and we're bringing it to Atlanta for 2020.
Wow. So when is this coming?
It's gonna be next summer, June 11 to 13.
So if people are interested, it's not just VR, but it's called Primer. So what kind of people would be interested in this conference?
Well, it's a conference. It's an annual conference, which the topics is around the speculative and critical design, and design fiction, and discursive design, and strategic foresight that I talked about. So it's gonna be like a combination of technologists and visionaries and practitioners and designers and strategists.
Yeah. So we can see that the different speakers that are coming. That from the last one was like strategic designers and management directors. And I think like one of the things like even as a creative, as an animator, we should always be kind of problem solving. So I think like coming from UX UI background and doing like starting out with web design and graphic design myself, like the first thing that I usually think about designing is foundations of who or what. So I think like implementing that into our animation or also the creative field itself, it's very, very relevant, and it's also very connected as well too.
And sci-fi is a very hot topic in speculative, like in strategic foresight. And
Oh yeah, if you're a previous artist and you wanted to do more stuff that's sci-fi, you should definitely be attending these kind of conferences as well too. So you can see, oh look, I can put that into my previous, and then I can actually explain the logic of it to my client. And that's really definitely more impressive.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I think the other question I have is that like when you first started getting into like the world of VR and XR, like how was it hard for you? Like how did you like like that one step that people are always wondering? Like did you just jump into it and then start problem solving things?
The first time that I started to actually produce something for VR, it was back to my country where I didn't have even access to the goggles or the glasses. It was either so expensive or it wasn't even, I couldn't reach them over there. So technically I learned from my brother. I learned how to program a head tracker, which was an optical 3 LEDs, and then like tracking my head. And then we needed to build everything from scratch to have a semi-immersive environment, and using Unity building content for that environment. And it was working on at the time my professor who was at the time PhD candidate for urban design, and he wanted to work on some specific topic for urban design, and we started to visualize some urban areas using VR.
Wow.
And that was something that we started to do. That we started to problem solve, and by problem solving, I don't mean only digital problem solving, but sometimes you don't have access to enough resources, enough equipment. so you have to build them from scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just whenever you want to do something, just do it.
Definitely. So I think one of the things that people don't really consider as well is a whole user experience when it comes to this new field. Because, like, for example, I'll put another example. It's like at the aquarium, because my boyfriend also worked in VR. But then, like, there's also a machine that's there for, it's like a simulator kind of thing where you can go in and go through underground and see like the ocean and things like that. It's like Ocean Voyager. So if you go to the aquarium, you can see that. But it was very interesting because I went in. I was like, okay, I've tried it at the company before. I'll try it here. So when I went in, the lady who was running the machine told me, "Hey, take off your glasses." And I was like, "Wait, that's because when they're gonna put the rift on me." And they was like, "You want me to take off my glasses?" And then they said, "Yeah, take off your glasses, otherwise it might scratch." And I was like, "Okay." So my whole experience was very nauseating because I couldn't see anything. It was super blurry, and even though I was like, "Okay, this technology might be great," but there is also the human component that you can't control in it that actually can also like yeah. Sorry, I think you cut off.
Yeah. Now I have you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's also a human aspect of it. Does that also come into play when you're designing like experiences too?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So like the whole topic of human factors is very important because whatever design you do, you're doing that for, even if it's just filmmaking, still you want to have some audience to enjoy what you're making and then enjoy like what you're thinking about. So if you fail to communicate that, your experience is a failed experience, unless your purpose is just to work for yourself. So that's a different topic. But yes, human factors, specifically when you're designing tools, come to play very, very importantly. And having the research around the user and around the people that, okay, what are the needs of the user? So we call it user-centric design. And then design it based on their needs, it gives you the best results. So you don't need to go through the full process of making or creating the whole product. And then after having the last version of the product, you realize that, oh no, it's not serving what you've been thinking about.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like building a bathroom for people with like disabilities, and then the wheelchair not being able to fit into it. I think that's like that kind of thing too.
Yeah, that's why the whole user experience topic is being so hot right now.
Yeah, but in terms of that with storytelling as well too, jumping from what is the advantage you think of like telling a story in VR versus traditional medium?
Again, it's the level of immersion. When you have that high level of immersion, you don't need to communicate your ideas. You put your audience into your ideas. So you're saying that, hey, this is my brain. Now I'm replacing that with your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely too. But the other thing is like there are so many different types. Like starting from something where not non-interactive, like you can sit down and then you just like in your chair. The second one where you can like walk around a space, and versus you can interact with the space. So like with the three level, like not three, like more levels of like interactivities. What do you think like as a suppose I wanted to tell a story about empathy, right? We're talking about empathy here, like putting somebody into shoe of like, oh, I want them to see what it's like growing up in an Asian family, for example. What do you think would be an advantage of like the storytelling, like for like using that in VR as well?
When you've been talking about that, a couple of examples were coming to my mind. First was I was on a panel with a storyteller from National Geography on Virginia Film Festival, and she was working on a project which I'm trying to remember the name, but unfortunately I lost it. But she was narrating a story of Iraq War, I guess, and it was a documentary, and it was in VR. And you can tell no matter how many movies you see about war, so you can sympathize, but as soon as you gotta experience that. As far as I talk about that, you can't get what I'm actually talking about, but once you put that headset on and you're in the middle of all that happenings, and then she worked on another experience, which was exploring the oceans, and then like being, the beauty of the oceans. And when you are just showcasing, if it's a docu fiction or if it's a documentary in VR, you're actually there. You're actually even if you specifically when you add haptics to that, it's another level of immersion. So when you're in that experience, this is you experiencing that world. And if per se, if it's a training or it's something that you want to do something and you can do it, you can actually interact with the objects, the people around you. And now we're talking about like Microsoft Altispace, which is a social, a virtual reality social environment, or Facebook Spaces, or other. There are a couple of Wave VR, which is a music venue type, DJ type experience, and tool environment that you can go and live talk to people. It was a strange first for me. The first time I remember it was like 5 or 3 years ago that I joined Alt Space, and I was I was shocked that, hey, who are these strangers around me who are like, they're not actual them. It's just yeah, awesome.
So you can also do like things like yoga together too in
Yeah.
VR alt space, Dungeons and Dragons.
Hmm, hmm. And then now they worked on that, and it's pretty good.
Look at how many events they have here, like meditation. So people can join in with each other and meditate with each other,
Yeah.
and then do all these different things too. Like talk about
You
gender.
can do your own board.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we were talking to Jack about when from Disrupt VR, because then you know Jack Woolman already, you were on a panel with him as well too. Yeah, and he did this whole experiment where he's like, oh, I'm gonna live 1 week in VR. And show everybody how it kind of like this guy spends an entire week in a headset and VR. I mean, we just had to bring him up because I mean it's just ridiculous, but it's very interesting. So even some things like this too, where he's like saying like the different side effects and things like that. Do you think there are any like side effects of like using like VR or like because there is going to be pros and cons to like effectively using this?
Actually, Jack's experience, it was a great case study of what happens when you're switching. I talked to him after that, and it was like magnificent. I was following his posts every day. That okay, now how I'm curious how he feels today. And yeah, it's pretty good. And then like you asked about like pros and cons, like everything. VHS, when we had like the first movies, so many people came out that, hey, this is like this is a disruption, this is killing us, this will like have this negative impact. But again, there is a balance. When you have, there was a demand for that now we have this technology, and now that we have this technology, we need to grow that culture around that technology to ethically and then usefully use it. Because with a knife you can cut yourself, or you can use it as a useful tool to I don't know, cut anything else,
Yeah.
and then make food.
So
And yeah, so it's just a tool. So it's on us, and by us I mean potentially all of us, because now we're using AR daily, and we are not even aware of that. All the filters that you're putting on your Instagram stories, they are a use case of AR. You're using Google Map and like switching to the showcase, the AR showcase of the live showcase. It's again an obvious use of AR. So all of us now are content creators for that, technology, for that tool. So a tool cannot dominate us. This is us. If we are ruining our future, it's us ruining our future. It's not that technology.
Yeah. So now you've talked about the speculative future. What do you think is the future of, like, not just the technology, but just in general, like the hype, the trends that everybody's been talking about? What are some of the big, like the like maybe two biggest things that people have been talking about, and what do you think is important in this conversation?
Something that resonated with me a lot about, like specifically Primer, I met people in New York for Primer 19 that they've been talking about solar punk movement, which is building our urban cities, the urban design around nature instead of modifying nature. So it's going to be nature modifying us.
Solar powered movement. I love that. I was like, I'm going to have a farm too in the future. So anyway.
And it's possible, and it's not, it's not something that we put different futures and different possibilities, which something is possible, something is plausible, and the possibility of having that, like predicting that and putting steps, it's doable. It's not something that it's just a sci-fi, so no one will reach to it, which will reach to all the technology that like Kubrick was talking about, So it's all about our imaginations, that how we're envisioning that. And again, there's not going to be any utopias, and there's not going to be any dystopias. There's always, because we are human beings that we want to survive, and our nature is dominating us, so it would survive too. So I believe there's going to be some sort of balance between these two.
Definitely. So do you have any last words or last tips you want to give people who are interested in what you do? And before that, can you name 3 jobs in your field that you think creative people can get into, or especially also animators and stuff? And maybe what they should add to their skill set to be able to jump into that field? That's 3 questions, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's a little bit hard question, because now the whole industry is a little bit confused about the naming, and every day I find weird names on job postings that because they don't know how to name it, and there are no naming conventions that all people know. But there are different levels that maybe in design world there are AR, VR, UX designers, AR, VR engineers, which you should know coding and programming, C# maybe, and there is Unity engineer, Unity developer, or Unreal developer, game engines in general, and general animators who knows how to work, for if you know how to work for games, animating for games, so it's going to be compatible for AR, VR. And because it shouldn't be, for some experiences, shouldn't be high poly or so heavy. And then yeah, so these are different types, and you always get to know weird naming, which was one of those that, if I can remember it, that was so funny. It was immersive storyteller.
Yes, I've heard that one before.
Yeah, and they needed a researcher to do that, and it was all over the place. But yeah, if you have, there are good communities.
Oh yes, let us know.
Atlanta, XR Atlanta is great, and then we have great studios in town too, like 45, Futures, Ninja Multimedia. I know that they're actively working on VR AR experiences, and they're my favorites. And yeah, there are plenty of people who want to come out and hang out, and the meetups. Oh, the meetup that I organize, it's the Art and Tech Atlanta.
What is it again? Can you repeat?
Art and
Art
Tech
and
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Great.
It's Art in Tech, IN.
Oh, Art in Tech. Found it. So this is
Yes.
the one. I'll post this up in the group as well too, for those who are interested. Art in Tech.
November 19th is our next session, which Paul is gonna
There
talk
it is.
about the experience that he had in Technosphere in Berlin.
Nice. So if anybody's interested, they should definitely come out to these events. And they can find this on the meetup group. So I've also posted this into the link. So if anybody's interested and want to learn more about like immersive experiences, XR, AR, VR, all the R's. There's a lot of R's nowadays. Then definitely come and look. And I think the lesson that take away from here is names are going to change. Like since this is still the field, where people are like, oh, how do I get into it? And I noticed that you kind of jumped into it because there isn't really as much of a formal type of like right now when everything is still in development, but closer to that is game development as well, like because game is kind of a little bit more interactive for someone who's interested, coming from the arts field. Something to add in is probably the Unity aspect of things, or maybe even Unreal, or whatever it is that to kind of get them jumping into that particular thing as well. Yeah. So Parnaz,
yeah, something about like that again, the names, it's just let's not design around the technology because the technology would change, but let's create something that people need or you need specifically and use that technology. So we're not designing for that medium, that tool, like you're not designing for VR, you're using VR to design something that communicates with people.
Definitely, because like sometimes I say too, you don't have to use a specific technology to solve a problem. You like use it if it enhances it, but I mean paper and pen, whatever it is, like that's still also practice and problem solving at the end of the day. So I think our time is up, but do you have any last words of wisdom that you would love to leave with everybody?
Well, I guess that word of wisdom would be again, design or make stories around people, for people, and use technologies. Let's not let technology use us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I was like, thank you, Parnaz, for being with us today. Whoa, what did I just do? Yeah. For everybody, who's interested more in XR and VR, we'll definitely keep exploring this, probably with more examples and more projects as well too. But I think we've gotten a lot of really good information from we've gotten a lot of good information from Parnaz in terms of like how she got into the field. Also, like the type of things that you might want to think out when you're designing, even for storytelling. Because I mean, the key word here is still user experience, user-centric, and storytelling, which I think no matter in what field you are, it helps with communication. And it's still going to be the heart of people. Because newspapers, books, everything, it's all still about the content as well too. So join us again next month, where we're going to explore some more different topics on our live stream. But if you have any questions for Parnaz as well too, you can also add it in. William Davis says, it was great hearing from you, Parnaz. If people are interested, I think they should come to the meetup to meet you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Or just send me emails.
Yes. Oh, so you want to give them your email? Yeah, on your website. Yes. So if you're interested in contacting Parnaz, you can definitely go on to her website where there's her about page. And I think in this particular page, you can actually probably contact her through this form or the email as well too.
And then all the social networks. Yeah.
Yes, all the social networks. So thank you so much again. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. And if you have any other questions or requests for next month, please let us know. Coming up really quickly, also like plugs, lots of plugs, is Subsume Atlanta. This is going to be on November the 9th. And it's for like people who are creatives. And this is going to be at the library, the Auburn Research Avenue Library. So stay tuned if you guys are interested in Subsume. It is free, but there's also the option to donate $10 if you are interested in coming. And there's going to be different things like with interactive creative class. There's also Seeds and Sparks is also going to be there talking about the different stuff. There's going to be like still VR, AR, and ASIFA is also going to be doing a panel about animation in Atlanta as well too. So keep tuned. Also, we have our every The live drawing class for anyone who's interested in the ASIFA-sponsored figure drawing class this week, starting this coming week, is going to be back at Primal Screen. Because previously it was at Creative Circus, but now this is going to be back at Primal Screen. If you're interested, you can check that out on our social media or on our website. And you do kind of want to sign up on the emailing list first so that you can make sure that you get in beforehand as well, too. It's only $5, and they change model every week. So stay tuned. And if you like us and everything, please follow us on our newsletter and stuff in our website and our link. Thank you very much, everybody, for staying with us, and we'll see you later. Let me end with that. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.